Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome to Dreadnought. Dreadnought is a free-to-play, class-based, tactical space combat game set at a titanic scale, involving dozens of unique ships with equally novel abilities. The publishers Greybox have sponsored me to cover their game, and in this paid promotional video I'm going to give you an overview of what it's all about. Let's get started. The first thing you'll have to do when you log into Dreadnought is to customize your character's appearance, male, female, whether you want to have tattoos on your character, and even if you're so inclined, you can have some rather fetching hats. After you get past this, you might be flabbergasted by the scale of some of the ships in the game. Well, when I say some of, I should say pretty much all of the ships in the game. They're simply gigantic and they're split amongst 3 tech trees. The 3 different manufacturers, Jupiter Arms, Akula Vector, and Oberon, each have their own key strengths and weaknesses. For example, the Akula Vector ships are slower but immensely durable, while the Oberon ships are much faster indeed. But of course, you have to sacrifice some of that armor plating to be able to gain that maneuverability. Now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, Dreadnought is class-based combat, and it's the distinction between these classes that I think is one of its key strengths. There are 5 classes. You have destroyers, corvettes, tactical cruisers, artillery cruisers, and dreadnoughts. Destroyers are the all-rounders of Dreadnought, capable of performing admirably in a variety of situations with a good mix of speed, armor, and offensive weaponry. Destroyers will be suited to those of you who are just starting out or wanting to be the jack of all trades. Artillery cruisers, on the other hand, sacrifice all armor to gain the biggest guns of the battlefield. As if this was not enough, they are also capable of cloaking and entering siege mode, which diverts all power to the main gun with dramatic effects. Pick these if you're a marksman who prefers to keep the combat at long range, shoots first, and asks questions later. Dreadnoughts are the behemoths of the battlefield, and what they lack in speed, they more than make up for in durability. Dreadnoughts can be effective at all ranges depending on your loadout, grinding down their enemies while outlasting them. Choose the Dreadnought if you want to shield your allies and often find yourself at the center of the engagement. Tactical cruisers are the healers of Dreadnought, excelling at keeping their allies alive while evading enemy fire. A well-positioned tactical cruiser can turn the engagement in the favor of your team. But don't think they're toothless, they can bite back. Team players will love tactical cruisers, and their inclusion in Dreadnought is paramount to the game's class-based combat. Do all of these ships look a little too slow? Are you a solo player who thrives in frenetic combat? Then look no further than the Corvette class. These rogues sacrifice all armor and durability to become the fastest vessels on the battlefield, and players who let Corvettes get too close to them aren't going to live long enough to regret it. Now, with those 5 distinct classes and not enough variety for you, you'll be very happy to hear that there is customization within each of the individual vessels. For example, let's take a look at the Tier 2 Dreadnought, the Nav. For your primary module, you can either choose between having plasma broadsides, which are short-range devastating cannons, or a long-range nuclear missile, which will travel up to 10 kilometers. Next is making decisions about whether you want to use the Vulture missiles, which are longer range and they hit harder but they have longer cooldowns, or if you want to use the Flechette missiles, which are far better suited for close-range engagements. Next, you can either choose to be a bit of a defensive Dreadnought, try and last a bit longer and have some lasers that cut down missiles before they reach your hull, or alternatively invest in your offense and have heavy auto guns, which can really make the difference when you're trying to bring down a target at short range. And finally, your choice of internal module completely changes how the nav will play. You can either take a warp jump. This will allow you to warp up to 5 kilometers, either away from a tricky situation, or maybe you just want to go and warp right next to an enemy vessel and fire off your broadsides. Or alternatively, you can take armor amplifier, which makes you a tank of godlike proportions if you want to soak up the damage. So let's customize our nav to be the master of close quarters combat. We'll pick broadsides, we're going to have the Flechette missiles, we're going to use the heavy auto guns, and to be able to get into close quarters, we're also going to take a warp jump. So let's get stuck in. One of the best things about Dreadnought is before the battle begins, you warp into position with your soon-to-be teammates. But this isn't just a cutscene to show off the graphics of the game or take a look at the horizon of the planet below. It's an opportunity to change the composition of your fleet. Maybe your allies are taking too many healers, tactical cruisers, or maybe they're taking too many Dreadnoughts, so you're going to be too tanky. You can change the ship, change the class, ready up to try and give your team the edge in the battle. So now we're in the thick of the battle in our Tier 2 Dreadnought, the nav, and the first thing that's going to happen is an artillery cruiser on the enemy team is going to use the siege mode to put a big old hole in the side of my vessel. We'll fire a few warning shots and he pulls back down below the canyon. We assist our team in destroying, I believe, a destroyer on the enemy team there, and there's a tactical cruiser below that we do manage to finish off. Those tactical cruisers are your first priority to focus down, because if you can take the healers out, their allies are soon to succumb to your DPS. Next, a pesky corvette flies right over the top of my vessel, but I do not have time to engage them because a dreadnought on the enemy team looks like it's my equal number in a nav fires their broadside at me, but I fire my broadside at them. Now the cooldown, that is on my 1 key, and that is just huge amounts of damage at short range combat. But it looks like there's another artillery cruiser on the enemy team who is putting some rounds into me, so we drop down in the canyon to try and gain a respite and allow Tanya, who's in a tactical cruiser there, to be able to heal me up. Now remember, in the hangar I said that customization is key to the way that you are going to play, and you'll also remember that I sacrifice my missile countermeasures to be able to gain a little bit of extra damage in close quarters combat. So if I was using those anti-missile lasers, I could have avoided all of that damage, but luckily it doesn't really do too much, considering I've got 1 if not 2 tactical cruisers healing me up here, and so that doesn't matter. But that certainly does. Oh my word, a siege mode there from an artillery cruiser, taking me down to pretty much half health. But luckily it looks like a destroyer rushes in, but I've got a few allies who back me up and shut him down. Now a corvette is focusing on Tanya. I switch to my short range weapons here and try and put a few rounds at him. Will he die? Oh no, our broadside narrowly missing the corvette there, but it looks like one of my allies manages to take him down and we get a bit of assistance points there. Now you might be wondering, how do you actually manage to win the battle? Well, you can see in the bottom right hand corner that each team has a number of points, and every time you kill an enemy vessel you gain 4 points. So that means it's the first to 25 kills, and considering there are 8 ships on a team, if you die 3 or 4 times each, then that is going to be a loss. But that also brings me on to a very important point, and that is that you can actually respawn in this. So if you do manage to get knocked out, it's not the end of the world, and you can go back in, even change your ship to be able to go back and hopefully take a vengeance on whoever shut you down. But that was a beautiful moment where we just put a full broadside there into an artillery cruiser. While they are absolutely fantastic at long range, they have absolutely no armor in close range, and so we took him down very quickly. So you might notice that there's a blue bar that's currently recharging to the right hand side of my reticle, and it's going to finish at maximum capacity at 65. Now that is the energy of your vessel, and it is of critical importance. You can use it to boost one of 3 things: either your ship's mobility, your ship's shields, or alternatively, if you want to go all in, your ship's guns as well. Now I'm getting hit in the back here by, I believe, an artillery cruiser. Yep, there is the blue sniping beam. And there you go. You saw me hold down my E key, push my mouse up and release it over mobility. And so now our dreadnought certainly isn't so slow. It isn't going to be nearly as quick as that corvette that just rushed in, put a few rounds at me, and then decided to vacate the battle, or shall I say the melee combat that was going on here. But careful use of this energy really can either make or break your game. Now I'm getting hit again by an artillery cruiser, shooting me at long range with the siege mode, but now it is wasted. And that also means that that artillery cruiser is going to be very vulnerable if I do get them into a close quarters situation. And so I boost the mobility of my dreadnought, I turn, and now I'm about to press my 4 key and use my warp jump. And this is one of the most satisfying things. You'll see that I cancelled the mobility to be able to gain the full energy bar. And there you go, he's trying to cloak, he's trying to hide himself, but I can see right through that cloak. We put on our short range, we fire our broadsides, and yep, goodbye artillery cruiser. I absolutely love the warp drive combo with going all in for a short range dreadnought build. It just feels absolutely amazing. And now we turn our attention to this destroyer. There goes our broadside, absolutely smashing him. And Tanya's doing a great job at keeping me alive, which allows me to be offensive. And slam dunk, 5th kill of the battle. Now this is where things are about to get really hairy. Oh my word, there are a few ships around there. I'm wondering whether I want to go into close quarters combat when I'm going to be significantly outnumbered. I think on the minimap there we can see 6 ships all in close proximity. And you can see that I'm trying to focus the tactical cruiser. Take out those tactical cruisers first, kill the healers, and then you can finish off the tanks or finish off the damage damage dealers as well. Sometimes if you do manage to get a big old burst off, you can take out their DPS first, i.e. the destroyers or the artillery cruisers, but more often than not, what I'm going to do here is push forwards and find that absolute healer whale there. We're going to put off a broadside right through him, and with one tactical cruiser taken down, now we can turn our attention to trying to focus the other one. There's the other tactical cruiser. He's trying to damage me right now. He's not even trying to heal his allies. I guess he realizes how important it is to try and take me out. We fire our flechette missiles out there. Will they be able to hit him? Oh gosh, there's a Corvette right in front of me. One of the easiest ships to take down. We force him to run away. Looks like the tactical cruiser is also there. Will we hit him? Oh, broadside right through. Tactical down. And there you have it. What an absolute onslaught that was. We probably went in there and took out 4 vessels with our allies, and that is how you really do take down your battles. And I don't know what this Corvette's thinking. I guess he really just wants to kill me. Will he be able to? No, I think he might have crashed into me there and died. I'm not sure if that happens. I don't know if there's collision damage, but there is something I will be showcasing a little later in the video with regards to collision damage, and boy, is it an absolute treat. Please, I make sure I don't forget, but I tell you one thing. Oh man, I think that guy just took me out with a torpedo, but not a bad run, guys. Now, as I mentioned, when you die, while it's not great, it's not the end of the world, and you have an opportunity to get back in there and try and get revenge on that cheeky bugger that took you down. That's the reason why it does take 25 kills for a team to win the battle, and it looks like my team are just 1 kill away, as we are on 96 points. And so we're going to activate our warp drive and do a short range jump right towards that destroyer. I'm not sure if it was this the one that killed me? We're about to find out. We fire off our flechettes, we go close quarters, we invest everything into damage there, boosting our damage, fire off a broadside, and there you go. Shut down. And victory is ours today. After the battle, the scoreboard shows how well you have performed compared to your allies and whether there were any heroes on the enemy team. There we can see we've earned credits, we've earned experience, we've also earned some free experience as well. And the scoreboard shows that actually Tanya was on top, but I'm just underneath. I mean, Tanya's in first place and I'm in second. But I have to admit, squads are absolutely fantastic in Dreadnought. You really do feel like you can be influential in the battle. And if you have a few friends, it definitely makes it a lot more fun. Oh, and before I forget, not all of Dreadnought is firing lasers at your opponents. I am going to show you the plasma ram. We're going to put full speed, divert all power to the front of the vessel. Look at that plasma at the front, and we're going to ram that destroyer into oblivion. Sure, it's not the easiest thing to pull off, but when you do, boy is it sweet. And so that about covers it. That's my overview and initial impressions of Dreadnought by Greybox. And as it's free to play, if you want to try it out yourself, I'll put a link in the description, and I'll also pin one in the comments down below where you can find where you can register your account and download the game. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.